I stumbled on a hidden roadmap that points to $31 XRP and $8,000 Ethereum. Sounds crazy, right? Well, it might just be the wildest crypto theory that I've heard all year, and I can't believe that I'm saying this, but it might actually hold up. So, picture this. I'm scrolling through crypto Twitter late at night, and the way that you do when you kind of can't sleep. Now suddenly, a post by an analyst named 𝗗𝗗𝘀𝗰𝗱, it stops me mid-roll. He's basically hinting that XRP and Ethereum could be headed to the exact same destination, like two runners aiming at the same finish line. So at first I'm like, sure buddy, I've heard wild price calls before, but something about this kind of stuck in my head, right? If he's right, it means XRP could blast up to $31 and Ethereum to $8,000. And they would both get there using the same secret ingredient. Now I had to just know more. Now here is where my skepticism turned into curiosity. 𝗗𝗗𝘀𝗰𝗱 claimed that this all comes down to Fibonacci extensions. It's those spooky spiral numbers that traders swear by. Now, by now, I'm no stranger to Fibonacci levels, right? They're like the measuring tape of crypto bull runs. But to see two totally different coins supposedly following the same Fibonacci blueprint, well, that's a new one. So I grabbed a cup of coffee. Okay, maybe it was my second cup. And I decided to investigate it for myself, determined to either debunk this or be convinced. First, let's set the stage with where we are right now. The market's been shaky lately, and XRP has been hovering around $2.80, trying so hard to push past that psychological $3 barrier. Honestly, it's almost comedic how it kind of keeps hitting that ceiling. Ethereum is also showing some fight after a rough patch. So it's kind of sitting around $4,300, eyeing up that $4,500 like it's the last slice of pizza at the party. Short term, everybody is focused on these kind of baby steps, right? Will XRP break $3? Will Ethereum reclaim that $4,500? Blah, blah, blah. But 𝗗𝗗𝘀𝗰𝗱 basically kind of at least tapped me on the shoulder and whispered in my ear, said, hey, look, way down the track, not just at your feet. And down the track, according to him, both XRP and Ethereum are aiming for the same magical Fibonacci level. So, what's this sorcery that he's talking about then? Well, it starts by rewinding to the crypto history, or at least some crypto history, because let's think back to early 2018. Ethereum was kind of the belle of the bull, right? Peaking around $1,420 in January of 2018. I remember that vividly. I had a friend who literally kind of threw an Ethereum party when it hit $1,000. And yes, those were the days. And XRP, well, it was around that time, XRP was flying too. It had topped out at around $3.31. People were FOMOing into XRP like crazy back then, thinking it was either their ticket to easy street, right? But of course, we all know what happened next, the great crypto crash of 2018, and it was like a bad hangover after a wild party. By March 2020, when the world was, dealing with other chaos, Ethereum had plunged to about $88. Can you believe that? $88 ETH. Basically, clearance sale prices. And XRP had dropped to a jaw-dropping 11 cents. Ouch. But here's the crazy part, right? Those two price points, the 2018 peak and the 2020 crash low, are the anchors of this Fibonacci roadmap that 𝗗𝗗𝘀𝗰𝗱 pulled out of the Fibonacci extension tool on the chart, stretching from that high to that low, essentially asking, if that was one full cycle, where might the next peak be? And the numbers that popped out gave me chills, right? For Ethereum, the 1.618 Fibonacci extension, which is like the holy grail target for many chartists, sat there right at the around $7,700 to $8,000. And guess what? When he did that, at least the same kind of thing for XRP, the 1.6 fib extension, and it pointed to roughly $31. So my skeptic brain was still kind of waving its arms, but I had to admit the math was consistent, right? Two very different coins, one on the smart contract throne and the other kind of dubbed the banker's coin, yet both could be shooting for the same kind of finish line if this theory, at least chart theory, actually holds true. Now, I could already, hear people yelling, correlation is not, cautionary, right? And every coin has a 1.618 fib target if you drew it like that. So what is the big deal? Fair point, fair point. So I dug even deeper, didn't I? And it turns out that Ethereum's journey from, that 2018 high to the 2020 low also yielded some interim fib levels that already came true. So for instance, the 1.0 fib extension for ETH was around $1,413, which, ironically, is almost exactly its old peak. And Ethereum obviously smashed past that eventually. Then the 1.414 extension was around $4,405, and guess where ETH has been trading recently? Right in the mid $4,000 range, flirting with that very number. So you can cue my kind of astonished face. It's kind of like watching a prophecy unfold step by step. So if those came true, or at least came to pass, it's not entirely bonkers to imagine the final boss level then, the 1.618 at $8,000, might also get hit if the bull run gods smile. Now, Ethereum even had a technical pattern supporting this idea. So if you're into chart patterns, get this. An inverse head and shoulders has been forming on ETH's weekly chart since 2021. So think of that like a person doing a funky kind of yoga pose upside down. Left shoulder was around the mid 2021, the head dipping in late 2022 into early 2024. That was the big kind of scary dip. And now the right shoulder in 2024 into 2025. So if the pattern completes and breaks out, it basically points to the same target, around that $8,000 mark. It's almost as if multiple puzzle pieces are clicking together for Ethereum. And as someone who loves a good old puzzle, I found myself nodding along going, okay, you have my attention. But here is where it gets spicier. XRP's chart, while totally different in personality, it lines up with the same kind of outcome. Now, XRP didn't do an inverse head and shoulders, oh no. XRP likes its at least to be dramatic in its own little way. It spent years, literally years, forming a massive contracting triangle. And I'm talking, from 2018 all the way to 2025. XRP was like that friend who's always kind of been about to do something big, but takes forever to actually go ahead and do it. Now the price squeezed and like a spring coiling together until recently, late 2024, it finally broke out to, at least out of that triangle. And when eGrag took the height of that triangle, the technical way to kind of project a triangle's breakout move, and flipped it upwards, well, guess where it landed? Right in the $27 to $31 neighborhood. Now, I had a little wow kind of moment seeing that. Like, what are the odds of two completely different chart patterns, one a triangle and one a head and shoulders, for two totally different coins, both hint at a huge move, and both, of those moves just happen to correspond with the 1.618 fib extension from each coin's last cycle. Either the universe is just playing a joke, or there's something real right here. So at this point, I was half convinced and half laughing at myself for even entertaining it. I even hopped into our free educational Discord server to sanity check this with some fellow crypto nerds. Some of them were just as kind of perplexed. Is it legit or just kind of chart voodoo? And we had a lively debate, to say the least, right? A few people reminded us that Fibonacci levels can be self-fulfilling. Traders watch them, so sometimes they come true just because everyone has expected them to do so. Others kind of pointed out that market conditions and news, regulators and adoption could actually completely overshadow the chart pattern. And these are all fair points. Now, before I go any further down this rabbit hole, I need to level with you on something important. Now, this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video today is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, we had to say that. You know how it goes. But let's be real, right? We're talking about pretty extreme price scenarios here, right? And I don't want anyone selling their house because some guy on YouTube, hi, that's me, got excited about a Fibonacci chart. So let's get back to the story. So here I am with this newfound evidence that XRP $31 and Ethereum $8,000 might be more than just hopium then. Naturally, the question becomes, do I actually believe it? And I'll be honest, I'm warming up to the possibility of it, but I'm still not entirely drinking the Kool-Aid. So I've seen way too many crypto predictions go hilariously wrong to ever kind of think anything is certain, right? But I'll tell you what, I am paying attention now. Even if there's a 10% chance that this is right, the risk reward for at least of that, at least kind of being aware is pretty huge. So it's kind of like hearing a rumor that there's gold buried underneath your town. Now, you don't quit your day job and dig up the main street. Please don't do that. But maybe you do keep a shovel in the garage just in case. Mostly, I'm a long-term holder of XRP and Ethereum, but the analysis tempted me to tweak my plan just a bit. So I even kind of caught myself thinking, maybe I should accumulate a little more XRP just in case. And if I do, then I'd likely use one of those exchanges that I trust, like Blowfin or BitGet. Full disclosure though, the links for those exchanges that are in the description are affiliate links that support the channel here. So I use them because their fees are decent and they've got a good variety of different coins and tokens. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't me saying go trade now, right? I'm just saying that's where I personally might experience, with a tiny trade after getting the idea like this. Now, eGrag's analysis also comes with some kind of pointed commentary. He basically called out the crypto community's double standards. Right? Why is it that he asked that so many traders will confidently say, yeah, Ethereum's going to hit 10K, no problem. Heck, I've heard analysts boldly claim 15 or even 20k ETH in the next few months. Yet those very same people will roll their eyes at the idea of XRP hitting $30. It's kind of like believing that your star quarterback can win the championship, but thinking the underdog team's quarterback doesn't stand a chance, even if they're playing in the same league. I kind of felt that because I've kind of caught myself doing the same thing, I'll admit it. Historically, I've been more bullish on ETH because, well, it's ETH. Smart contracts, DeFi, NFTs, all that flashy stuff. And XRP, well, despite its strong community and real banking use cases, it always had that kind of cloud of doubt around it, especially during the long SEC lawsuit saga. But numbers, they don't have feelings, do they? A Fibonacci chart doesn't know Ethereum's DeFi world from XRP's cross-border payments niche. So it just shows pure technical potential. So let's chew on that potential for a second then, because if Ethereum hits $8,000, its market cap would be something like $960 billion, give or take, depending on how much ETH exists by then. That's nearly $1 trillion. It's insane, right? Yet plenty of people toss that projection around like it's practically expected someday. But if XRP hit $31, right, given its supply, we're talking roughly $1.8 trillion market cap. Now that would briefly make XRP one of the most valuable assets on the planet, maybe second only to Apple's market cap. Now I would be absolutely, Or at least it would be absolutely historic. People would go nuts. Overnight XRP millionaires would be flexing Lambo pictures. But please don't do that. The sheer shockwave, of course, of that would make 2017 Cryptomania look like just a warm-up. And here's 𝗗𝗗𝗀 saying, not only is it possible, it's the logical target if we trust the same math that got ETH this far. It's pretty wild. Now, I'm not here to tell you that this will happen, right? I'm also not here to tell you that it won't. I'm just sharing this wild ride of a discovery that I went on, and honestly, I'm excited to see how it all plays out. Now, one thing that I've learned in my crypto journey, maybe I've learned this too, or you've learned this too, is that the moment that you think something is impossible, the crypto market has a funny way of proving you wrong. Remember when $20,000 Bitcoin sounded absurd, or when people laughed at $4,000 Ethereum predictions way back when? And how about those who said that XRP would never see $3 again, right, after 2018? We haven't hit $3 since then, well, until recently, right, 2025. But XRP did break out of that multi-year rut. Then it had a huge run up to $3.66 just recently, right? Who says that enough time hasn't passed and that there's enough hype and maybe another wave of crypto fever like these kind of crazy targets, can't actually be met, or maybe even more crazy, over-exceeded. Now, 𝗗𝗀𝗀 isn't ruling out a longer time frame either, right? In fact, he floated the idea that this bull cycle might stretch into 2028, with a major peak in late 2025 and then downturn in 2026. That actually makes a little sense to me. It kind of suggests the road to 8K ETH, or maybe even $31 XRP, could be a slow burn rather than a sudden explosion. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Good things take time. I mean, it means, at least it means that we might get a couple of years of growth with plenty of roller coaster dips in between, no doubt, instead of, everyone kind of peaking tomorrow or everything peaking tomorrow and then crashing next week. But here is the thing. 𝗗𝗀𝗀's even suggested that Ethereum may hit its big target first, since it's already closer to its old highs. So picture that, Ethereum bursting through $8,000 and the kind of crowd just goes wild. Meanwhile, XRP is still kind of maybe chilling at $10 at that time. And all the haters are still saying, see, XRP never gonna catch up, right? But then, imagine a little later on, XRP wakes up and absolutely rockets to $27 to $31 range, long after most people have actually gave up on it. It would be the ultimate tortoise and the hare story. And honestly, the scenarios like that aren't unheard of in crypto either. Sometimes the, laggards become the leaders overnight. Now, I find that story so compelling that it might, actually, because it kind of reminds me, I should say, of why I fell in love with crypto in the first place. It's unpredictable, it's dramatic, and yes, it's the ridiculously rewarding if you're on the right side of it, or ridiculously painful if you're not. I've been on both sides. So for me, this whole kind of exploration into Fibonacci targets was a reality check and an adventure all rolled into one. I started off mocking the idea, then investigating it, the kind of believing in it, and now I'm, this state of kind of excited uncertainty. And you know what? I think there's a healthy place, at least that's a healthy place, to be as an investor or an enthusiast. Skeptical enough to question things, but open-minded enough to imagine the what if. So let's wrap up this story. Did I track down a myth and become a true believer? Well, I'm not building a shrine to the 1.618 Fibonacci level or anything crazy, but I'm walking away with a newfound kind of respect for these charts and the analysts who kind of stick their necks out with these bold predictions. Whether XRP hits $31 or Ethereum hits $8,000 and beyond, is something only time will tell. In the meantime, of course, I'm going to keep on watching and maybe even adjusting my strategy modestly while still holding more core positions. And definitely keep this kind of conversation going. It's, if nothing else, this adventure taught me one thing. In crypto, never say never. So for now, smash the like button, subscribe for more, and I'll see you all in the next one.